This is Everything Wrong with Mortal Kombat X. Let's do this.
You seem to know this Kano intimately.
Not the word I'd use, but yes. I chased him for years until he escaped to Outworld after Shinnok's invasion.
So, Kano escaped to Outworld after the netherrealm invasion, yet he somehow recovered Shinnok's amulet, which was in Earthrealm. Ugh, my brain cannot handle this nonsense.
What's nonsense about it? He's obviously come back to Earthrealm since he left. He's probably been realm hopping for years.
Gotcha!
Why would he return now?
You know, that's a good question, Kenshi. Even if Kano has crucial intel, who's to say Sonya won't straight up murder his ass? Like she almost did in this very sequence. That is unfitting for a cunning warrior.
I think it's clear Kano knew that even if Sonya lost her cool, which she did, someone would be there to stop her from doing something stupid, which they were. Seems like a calculated risk, which seems fitting for a cunning warrior like Kano.
Gotcha!
Honestly, if you have tech like this, why would you ever reveal yourself? Why even infiltrate this compound if you were just gonna try to leave? And he shows up alone? Man, Kano's plan is making less sense by the second.
He revealed himself because he knew Sonya had clocked him. As for why he would infiltrate the compound, I'm just going to assume it's because he used the portal to get from Outworld to Earthrealm, and on this side of the portal, there's a compound. And he shows up alone because being flanked by Tarkatan or Oshtek guards might be a tad suspicious, especially since he's trying to sneak into Earthrealm.
Gotcha!
Hello, love. Been a while.
I am severely disappointed that Kano didn't say, "Hello, baby. Did you miss me?"
Considering you sinned the game for calling back to an earlier game, I wouldn't put it past you to sin the game for calling back to the film as well.
Gotcha!
No, I disagree with this. Kano is not capable of being strangled. This is how they greet each other in Australia.
Sinning the game to make what I assume was meant to be a joke.
Gotcha!
Gave us the details on Melina's location. She has the amulet, but she's got a lot of protection.
And once we get to the jungle, we will prove this to be incorrect.
Well, it was Kano that told them, so it's hardly surprising it was a lie. That said, it's better to assume he's telling the truth and expect heavy resistance than be surprised to find an army when you get there. Worst case scenario, he was lying and there's little resistance. Win-win.
Gotcha!
More lazy writing.
How dare they flesh out their characters during story instead of front-loading the entire campaign with an encyclopedia's worth of backstory? Stupid lazy writers, am I right?
Gotcha!
Ugh, one of the absolute worst alternate costumes ever made. It's almost as bad as... yeah, let's try to forget about that.
It is a truly awful costume. I don't really think it's worth sinning the game for, but I won't sin you for this one.
Well, look at what we have here. Baraka, yet another fully functional character that was cut from the game. Expect him in Combat Pack number 2, coming whenever. Thanks a lot, WB.
I already explained this one earlier. Take the sin and let's move on.
Gotcha!
We interrupt this Mortal Kombat game to bring you a segment of Gladiator.
Yeah, because the film Gladiator invented the thumbs down execution signal? Question mark?
Gotcha!
And Baraka died just as he lived. A jobber.
Sinning the game because a character died as he lived.
Gotcha!
More taunting by WB and NetherRealm. They're like, hey players, you know Rain, this cool character? Yeah, you can fight him a couple times in story mode, but you can't play as him. And we're not going to make him playable unless you start begging for him.
Not only is this the third time you've sinned the game for this same reason, it's also the second time you've sinned it for Rain specifically. I'm throwing 10 sins on.
Damn, scene does not contain any Tanya Torkin.
Wow, actually complaining that Mortal Kombat's female characters aren't sexualized enough? Take 20 sins for that one, mate.
I know you said you weren't friends, but you're not killing them.
There is literally no reason for Cassie to stop Devora from killing Tanya and Rain. Literally none.
No reason? How about there being no reason to allow them to be murdered? You know Cassie's a good guy, right? I don't think she just blindly wants any and all foes to be murdered in cold blood.
Gotcha!
I have a quick question for you, Melina. How do you expect to rule Outworld when you can't even handle a bunch of bees?
Name one current world leader who wouldn't act the same way if they were swarmed by bees. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Gotcha!
Story mode only fatality.
I don't know why this is a sin.
Gotcha!
And come to think of it, Melina has those massive jaws. Why didn't she just chomp off Devora's face and take her with her? Hashtag logic.
Maybe she didn't want to.
Gotcha!
And that's 2 prominent Mortal Kombat characters. Dead. Within a matter of 10 minutes. My read meter's detecting some Devora favoritism. Not that that's a bad thing for me personally, but it's still sinful as shit.
I don't think it's sinful as shit. It was cool. I bet no one thought going into MKX's story that Melina would be killed off, and Baraka's always been somewhat of a minor character anyway.
Gotcha!
Well, thanks for that. I know I'll never eat again.
Anorexia.
Jokes about anorexia.
Gotcha!
You know, this power that Kotal Khan possesses is pretty incredible. It will never be used again.
Yep, 100% a sin.
Reiko Accords require.
Oh, for crying out loud, will you please shut the hell up about Reiko?
Oh, would you shut the hell up about your damn Mortal Kombat Commandments bullshit?
Gotcha!
They never suspected one of their own to be a disciple of our Lord.
This one lives to serve Shinnok.
Unsurprising plot twist is unsurprising. Did you guys forget that Devora turned on Melina earlier?
This one serves Melina no longer.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought.
Surprising? No. Unexpected? Yup.
Gotcha!
Well, this game has officially reached metal status. Revenants riding on hell rams. Kick fucking ass. -1 sin.
Those rams look dumb as shit. They look like the goats on steroids from Fallout New Vegas. I won't sin you because you actually removed the sin, so I'll just disagree and move on.
But we have to immediately put that sin back in because derp, Katana, Kung Lao, Liu Kang. Remember these main characters from Mortal Kombat? Yeah, they're gonna play second fiddle in this game.
Oh, well, I guess I'll just throw that sin on I wasn't gonna give you.
Gotcha!
And a fresh one for seemingly wanting every character in the entire game to be the main focus of the story, and for none of them to die during the events of the story, since you sin those events willy-nilly.
Gotcha!
He shows his face after 25 years, just as Shinnok's amulet is in play. That's not a coincidence.
That's why I need you. Your Quan Chi expertise.
Here's another sin where resurrected combatants actually retain the memories of being a revenant.
Point to the part of the game where they said that wasn't possible.
Gotcha!
I've trained all my life. Can fight my way out of nearly anything. But I still feel like a second-rate Cage.
Here's the thing, since Sonya and Johnny Cage are both in this game, you kinda are. If one of them were absent, you wouldn't be. Simple, ain't it?
Now it's my turn to remove a sin, because that was just truth.
Dumbass guards send down only one guy, making this inevitable escape plan much easier.
Why would they feel the need to send more than one guard when the captives are, you know, captive?
Gotcha!
More lazy writing.
This again? For real, what's the alternative? That they show you all the events in chronological order? That would feel really weirdly unbalanced. You'd be learning about the pasts of Takeda and Kunshin before even meeting them. At least this way, they introduce a character, then slowly unfold new information about that character as the story progresses.
Gotcha!
Yield.
Takeda's cool and all, but him beating Scorpion this easy? I don't buy it.
Well, Scorpion is in his human form, and Takeda was trained by Scorpion. Is it really that much of a stretch?
Gotcha!
Speaking of which, I am noticing a theme throughout this entire story mode. It's like, hey everybody, we got a whole new generation of fighters, and you will like them. All those old characters that you grew up loving and playing, yeah, forget about them. Their time is up. Fuck them all, they gotta go. It's time for some new blood, bitches! And all I gotta say to that is, I'll be ready when I'm fucking ready.
Yeah, we get it. You don't like the new characters, but could you imagine if these new characters had been added to the game and they didn't do anything impressive or noteworthy in the story? You'd be sat there complaining about how weak and pointless they are.
Gotcha!
Your mother was killed by Red Dragon assassins. I was the target. Su Qin was the victim.
Son of a bitch! It was your fault!
No, you idiot. He just told you Red Dragon killed your mother. It's their fault.
He means indirectly. Obviously.
Gotcha!
Look at these rookies just sticking their heads out like morons.
It wasn't that gave them away. Reptile could smell them, so sticking their heads out like morons is irrelevant.
Gotcha! The Earthrealmers. Devora freed them.
You know, half of the conflicts in this game are due to massive assumptions and the fact that people cannot properly communicate with one another. And that, for all intents and purposes, is a sin.
To be fair, those sound like the driving forces of pretty much every case of unorganized combat that's ever happened. Also, I don't think it's unreasonable to assume that Devora freed the Earthrealmers, since Reptile and Co. just discovered that Devora betrayed Kotal Khan after examining the wounds on that Oshtek guard. That's a long sentence.
Gotcha!
Absolutely pointless QuickTime event featuring Takeda and Reptile. You know, since Takeda's a freaking telepath.
It would have been pointless even if he wasn't a telepath. I wouldn't sin you for this, but you've already sinned the game for pointless QuickTime events.
Gotcha!
Wait, did Aaron Black just run at Takeda with his guns? His bullet-shooting guns? Instead of, you know, pulling the trigger? Wow, you have officially made one of the most badass characters into an idiot.
Yeah, that's pretty indefensible. He should have shot Takeda.
Gotcha!
Hey, you want another example of inconsistent power levels? Ermac has not killed everybody in this scene.
Considering Ermac could only move one box at a time in that earlier cutscene, I'd say this is pretty consistent within this game.
Gotcha!
Takeda, you are a telepath. You do not need to hold people's heads to read their mind.
He obviously does when that person is 10,000 minds all screaming at once.
Gotcha! Devora. And the Earthrealmers?
She stole the amulet, then helped them escape.
She betrayed us to the Thunder God.
I already explained why this is a sin. Skip!
Again, based on the information they've got, I'd say they're reasonable assumptions to make. They know Devora betrayed Kotal Khan, they know Earthrealm wants the amulet back, and as far as I know, they don't know Quan Chi is lurking around trying to bring Shinnok back. And since this is the second time you've sinned these characters making assumptions, I'm sinning you twice.
Gotcha!
Have you been able to determine where Devora was headed?
We think she's headed for the Sea of Blood.
Damn.
Dad?
She's coming here, to Quan Chi. There's a secret portal near the Sea of Blood. Quan Chi had it built when we were getting ready to invade Outworld.
Okay, let's just point out, they have radio reception between realms, okay? We already sinned this in the last Mortal Kombat game, and this is no exception.
Are you really making an assumption of what their tech can and can't do immediately after sinning the game because characters made assumptions? Take 5 sins just for the sheer hypocrisy.
Gotcha!
Okay, I know who Serena is. Question is, do you? If not, you were probably one of those people that were like, who is this bitch? Why is she important? Well, guess what? The game will not bother to care about details, so...
She wasn't that important. All you needed to know about her is that she used to be in Quan Chi's service, and the game tells you that. Oh, what am I saying? I forgot. She's a character in the game who isn't the main focus, and we all know you think that's a sin.
Gotcha!
But why is it Quan Chi travels by conventional means?
He seems unable to fully use his magic. He's weaker than when I was in his service.
How is Quan Chi weaker when he's in the freaking Netherrealm? Hashtag Mortal Kombat logic.
Quan Chi's page on the Mortal Kombat wiki has this to say. Despite being described as a native of the Netherrealm, Quan Chi's powers of sorcery are in fact weakened whenever he is present there, to the point he is virtually helpless to defend himself against attackers. So while he does retain some power in the Netherrealm, being there does in fact make him weaker.
Gotcha!
These guys don't notice Jack's obviously crouching behind this rock.
Yeah, that's a dumb trope I've always hated.
Okay, let's ponder this for a minute, people. Sindel steps on Jax's hands in order to make him fall off a cliff, as if he has nerves in his metal arms in order to feel pain. Yeah, go ahead, laugh at it. I know I did.
I agree, it's stupid. She should have just kicked his hand to knock him off the cliff.
And speaking of Sindel, can we just mention how ridiculous the concept is of Revenant Sindel? So she went from being an evil zombie to being a different type of evil zombie? Okay.
Yeah, she was resurrected using 2 different types of necromancy. One resurrected her original body, and the other one likely involved Quan Chi's flesh pit, like we saw with Johnny earlier. But I'm not going to sin you for this, because I've already agreed that revenancy makes no fucking sense in this game.
Quan Chi reunited me with my family. He will do the same for you.
That's a pretty dumb thing to say when his actual family is alive, aka not revenants.
Pretty sure she means once Shinnok has taken over and killed everyone, that's when Quan Chi will reunite Jax with his family, and they'll all be revenants.
Gotcha!
And Sindel, yet another clearly functional character that was obviously cut from the game. Expect her in Combat Pack number 2, whenever WB Games decides.
Oh hey, it's that Sindel is obviously cut from the game sin I saw coming a while back. Take your sin and get out.
Gotcha!
It is possible to escape Quan Chi Kitana. I can aid you, as Bihan aided me.
You became too familiar with Bihan, allowed emotion to corrupt you.
Emotion freed me.
Yep, here we go again. Another crucial plot detail just glazed over.
I wouldn't say Serena's freedom from Quan Chi's service was a crucial plot point in MKX's story.
Gotcha!
A weakened state. Is it possible for you to release Shinnok?
Let's talk about this weakened state for a moment, shall we? Quan Chi fell off his hell ram. That's it! That is all that happened to him throughout this entire previous sequence, and all of a sudden he's weakened? And remind you, we're in Quan Chi's fortress, which is in the Netherrealm in this timeline. The Netherrealm, the place where he is the most powerful sorcerer. See what I mean when I said earlier they're trying to make Quan Chi into a little bitch? Yeah, insulting.
Look, I don't know why he's weakened in the Netherrealm, but that's just how it is. If you don't learn to deal with it, I'm going to keep giving you sins for bitching about it.
Gotcha!
Jax's arms are in his heavy weapons variation in this cutscene. However, when we start the match with Liu Kang, it's back to his wrestler variation.
So he changed variation. What's the big deal?
Gotcha!
Okay, now the following sequence is one of the biggest problems story mode has. Check this out. Quan Chi is vulnerable. They have him captured. The rest of the Revenants are right there in the Netherrealm with him. Devora is already on her way. Why didn't they just gather in the Netherrealm, wait for Devora, ambush her, take back Shinnok's amulet, crush Quan Chi's nuts again to release all the Revenants, and then kill his ass? Bam! Game over. Or am I the only one that's making any sense here? Apparently so.
This would seem to make sense, but then you'd have a short story. I mean, you said it yourself. Bam! Game over. But I'm not going to sin you for it.
Advise Secretary Blake that Quan Chi is in custody. We'll be moving him to the Supermax facility at Fort Charles within the hour.
Okay, let's entertain that logic for a moment, shall we? They're gonna move a netherrealm demon sorcerer to a human Supermax prison. Derp.
I don't recall them saying they don't have any special equipment there to contain sorcerers. They've been dealing with this other realm shit for 20 years at this stage. It's not unreasonable to assume they'd transfer him to somewhere that can contain him. Hell, that meat wagon he's in the back of seems to be doing a good job of holding him.
Gotcha!
General,
Master Hisashi, I hadn't received word you were coming.
I will have Quan Chi.
We have things under control. You can...
He must die.
Wow, this is literally round 2 of, hey Scorpion, don't kill this guy or else we're all gonna suffer dire consequences later on. Jeez, does this fucker not learn?
No, he never learns. His defining character trait is being eternally angry and unreasonable.
Gotcha!
A bunch of ninjas with swords are charging at fully armed special forces. Take a moment to laugh at that.
Yeah, that's dumb, I agree.
Let's embrace the absurdity of this scene for a moment. Scorpion and Sub-Zero, Hanzo Hisashi, and Kawhi Liang are having tea together. When the fuck did Mortal Kombat turn into a dating sim? Clearly I did not get the memo.
It's not absurd, it's an awesome moment that was over 20 years in the making. We finally get to see Sub-Zero and Scorpion become buddies after Hanzo finally stops being Eternally Angry Man for 5 minutes and actually listens to Sub-Zero for a fucking change. Also, 2 guys can share a drink and have it not be a date. Would you have preferred it if they'd hit a bar, got completely wasted, and crushed puss instead? As cool as that would be to witness, I think that would be the absurd scene, not chatting over tea.
Gotcha!
When I finally killed Sector, I discovered the Lin Kuei had not sacrificed its honor with the Cyber Initiative. We had abandoned it long before.
Wow, yet another crucial story detail just glossed over. Sector isn't exactly a pushover character, okay?
The details of Sector's death are unnecessary though. There's no need to bog the story down in pointless details all the damn time.
Gotcha!
Wow, Frost is in the game, and she's not a playable character. Yeah, cue the obvious Frozen jokes.
Hey, just chill out, Frost.
This is lame. This is lame. Frost is not a playable character in this game. This is lame. This is lame. She was cast aside and that's a shame.
50 sins.
Pay your respects.
Define irony. Frost, a ninja with ice powers, turns out to be the most hot-headed individual in this scene.
I'm not sure what you're sinning here. Perhaps the fact they didn't go for the obvious choice in what you undoubtedly would have sinned as lazy writing?
Gotcha!
Well, hell has definitely frozen over now. Scorpion and Sub-Zero are bowing to each other. Wait a minute. I thought we were done with the puns.
Wait a minute, indeed. Did you just sin the game because you made a pun? Take 2 sins for that.
Gotcha!
Scorpion, we can...
My name is Hanzo Hisashi!
I find it rather disturbing how this game is actively trying to prevent calling him Scorpion. It's like, hey Scorpion, everything that made you cool? Yep, just totally forget about it. New generation, you don't matter anymore.
Okay, now I'm convinced you just hate the Mortal Kombat story progressing past the MK4 stage. To hell with absolutely everything new. That's you. That's what you sound like.
Gotcha!
And Quan Chi died just like he lived in this game. A bitch.
You sinned the game earlier for Baraka dying as he lived, and now you're doing the same for Quan Chi. That's double the sins.
Gotcha!
There will be no surprises from you, Mr. Cage. Bring him.
Johnny Cage becomes the MacGuffin.
You sinned the game when Sonya was in need of rescue. Now you're doing the same when Johnny is in need of rescue. That's double the sins.
Gotcha!
Praise be to Lord Shinnok.
Liu Kang does not say this in his preacher voice. It should be like, praise be to Lord Shinnok.
1 sin for that terrible slig from Abe's Odyssey impression.
Gotcha!
And a further 5 sins because we all know full well you'd have sinned the game if he'd said it in that voice.
Gotcha!
There is an Earthrealm force in Netherrealm.
I am aware. They will be neutralized.
And they will never be neutralized.
If his plan had worked, they would have been neutralized, and he obviously thinks his plan is going to work.
Gotcha!
Mortal Kombat Commandment number 9. Thou shalt not show thy lame characters such as Boraicho. By the way, if any of you are wondering why we hate Boraicho so much, it's because of this. Now, you may think it's funny, but we think it's one of the dumbest fatalities ever created. In our eyes, he is not a redeemable character.
I'm not saying that's a good fatality by any stretch of the imagination, but there are plenty of worse fatalities than that one. In fact, your best mate Quan Chi has the worst fatality in the entire franchise, and they redeemed him. I think they actually did a decent job of bringing such an awful character back and making him decent. And despite all his farting and puking, he's actually a pretty badass character now. He's a solid combatant. He's just casually old friends with Raiden, and he trained Sub-Zero. I think he's redeemed.
Gotcha! Oh hey, Raiden, I almost forgot you were in this game.
Of course, a character wasn't the center of attention for 5 seconds, so why would you commit brain space to them? We know how you think every character should be the main character, but God forbid they take Raiden off screen for a while.
Gotcha!
Kung Lao and Liu Kang, they were like suns. I would move the heavens to bring them back to the light.
Really, Raiden? You would move the heavens to bring them back to the light? You are a god!
He's a god. He's not the god. Clearly, gods in MK are more like superheroes than deities, and as such, aren't omnipotent. You must be confusing him for an elder god. You should know the difference by now, mate.
Gotcha! Ah, finally, the real heroes of Mortal Kombat, making their cameo appearance in their original form.
Wait, did you just go, finally, the characters I wanted to see, and in their original forms too? Awesome, take a sin, you stupid game. Take 2 sins for that.
Gotcha! Oh, fuck you, game. Fuck you, trying to retcon D'Vorah into this timeline even though she was never seen, heard, or mentioned in this timeline.
Isn't the entirety of MK9's story literally one giant retcon event, though? Noob Saibot was essentially one enormous retcon. This isn't new or unexpected.
Gotcha!
Tarkatans are beaten so easily.
See, even D'Vorah recognizes the Tarkatan's jobber status.
Yeah, some characters have to be minions. Get over it. At least Baraka was made chief minion over the years.
Gotcha! Remember, Baraka is a fully functional character, yet he is not a playable character. Blame it on the... You know what? Fuck them.
Aren't we done with this yet?
Gotcha! Yes, thank you. See, people? Even NetherRealm themselves recognize what a terrible character Bull Show is. I will go ahead and add a like for this.
You're taking Shinnok, a fallen elder god, using his amulet of immense power to overwhelm one outworlder as a sign that the studio hates the character they chose to put into the game. I know you gave the game a like, but the reason is so stupid I have to sin you for it.
Gotcha!
I would not boast of victory prematurely. I have already won, Raiden.
I'm sorry, Raiden, but he's right. Shinnok has won. Bullshit circumstances are the reason why the rest of story mode exists.
Actually, no, he hasn't won, hence the story's continuing. In fact, Shinnok goes on to lose, and bullshit circumstances aren't the reason the rest of the story exists. It exists because they need to have a climax to the story with the big bad guy. It would have been shit if your dream of the story ending in the Netherrealm without much in the way of stakes was really how it ended.
Gotcha! Smoke does the wobbly H.
You should have given the game a like for that one, mate.
Gotcha! Vomit Cocoon.
What's wrong with the Vomit Cocoon? It's yet another reason why D'Vorah is interesting as a new race to the series. I don't get why so many people are upset that she's returning in MK11. She's one of the few interesting characters from the new additions in MKX.
Gotcha! Elder God Period Blood.
I thought it was a pretty cool effect.
Gotcha! We interrupt this Mortal Kombat game to bring you a segment of Doom, which at this point sounds like a much better choice to be playing.
Sinning the game because a small part of it reminds you of something awesome.
Gotcha!
Yes. Tremble before me, Elder Gods, as I absorb Earthrealm's power.
Speaking of the Elder Gods, where the hell are they this entire time? Elder Gods. Further proof that they are garbage tier.
Not that we needed any further proof since we already established this fact earlier in this game, and indeed in the previous game.
Gotcha!
That shockwave fried the leads.
Then let's get going. We're almost out of time.
This is one of the most convenient timings in the history of convenient timings.
Sure. So what? You don't like convenient things? Would you rather they had another flashback to show us the conversation Kotal had with his jobbers regarding a good time to strike Earthrealm? Actually, don't answer that. We know how much you love drawing the story out with superfluous details, while at the same time wishing it was shorter.
Gotcha!
Bring them to me!
Or not.
The woods. Come on.
How? How did you manage to lose them? You were literally right there.
I'm not even going to try and argue that one. That's just dumb. Especially given the straight-up jump cut without so much as an establishing shot between the chase and losing them.
You know those bullshit circumstances that I mentioned earlier? Bear witness to one of many of them. You cannot convince me that this Teen Titan group can take down Kotal Khan, Ermac, Reptile, Aaron Black, and Ferrator, and Kotal Khan's army. Get out of here.
Why not? Didn't you see they were employing superior tactics, using the home field advantage to, well, their advantage? They ambushed the invading force, surrounding them with fire and fallen trees and stuff. Reptile's a pushover because when has he ever not been? Aaron Black is a pushover because he's the guy who could have shot Rain earlier but had to gloat for dramatic effect. Kotal is a pushover because he's made stronger by the power of the sun, something that's entirely lacking in this scene. And Ermac is a pushover because he can only lift one box at a time, remember? Ferrator might prove to be a bit of a struggle, but we saw the combat kids defeat them earlier without much issue, so yeah, I'd say this scenario isn't as far-fetched as you make it seem.
Gotcha! I am not Reptile in this shot.
That's kind of rapey, dude. You're sinning the game because you're not the guy who gets to hold a woman down on her back against her will while you're on top of her? 20 sins.
Stop! You need water.
Water? He needs water to heal an acid spit to the eyes. You know the worst thing? It actually works.
Yes, it's pretty standard procedure when you get something corrosive in your eyes to wash it out immediately with clean water. Like seriously, that's the first thing you should do. Looks like someone didn't do their cost training. And while it's unlikely that merely washing it out will result in an instant and perfect cure like it did in this scene, the very next thing you see is 10,000 souls wrapped in a bundle of rags that calls itself Ermac using telekinetic powers to try to crush Jackie and Takeda with a tree. So, where exactly are you drawing this line of realism that the developers shouldn't cross? Because I can't see it.
Gotcha! Here's another example of bullshit circumstances. Enjoy it!
What did you just sin the game for? Ermac bringing Jackie and Takeda to Kotal Khan as Kotal Khan ordered? I'm sinning you twice here because I don't know what bullshit circumstance you claim just happened.
Gotcha!
Boys.
And another.
What's bullshit about that? We know Ermac can lift up at least one box.
Gotcha! And another.
Squeeze, squeeze, Tor! Your eyes, so bright. Gonna carve them out! Trickery! Deceit!
What's bullshit about any of this? You can't just show me a scene and call it bullshit without telling me why it's bullshit. 5 cents.
Gotcha!
Shinnok's been freed. He's at Raiden's Sky Temple. He's already infected Earthrealm's life force.
The heavens boil.
No, duh. You didn't notice the blood red sky that's been hovering above you for the past 10 minutes?
I'll grant you that one. How could he miss it?
And yet another bullshit circumstance. Let's see how much time Kotal Khan's army wastes when they could have easily killed these guys.
Oh, now I get it. You think the Outworld forces want to kill the combat kids, but failed in all those supposed bullshit circumstances. Funny, I don't recall Kotal Khan saying, kill them. I remember his exact words being, bring them to me. Which is, now correct me if I'm wrong here, exactly what they did. In those circumstances you called bullshit. I thought I was missing something when you said those circumstances were bullshit, but it turns out you were just incredibly, incredibly wrong.
Gotcha!
Chattel, you die tonight.
So, do it already. I mean, for crying out loud, why doesn't Black just shoot all of them? Bam, 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 bam. Game over.
Because Kotal Khan isn't Shao Kahn. Shao Kahn would have just killed them all immediately. Kotal Khan's more of a pragmatic leader who actually respects the rule of law. I think he initially wanted to take the combat kids prisoner, either to interrogate or to execute. After he calls the combat kids chattel and says, you'll die tonight, he says something to his men in his native tongue, which is most likely seize them and not kill them, as you seem to think it means. This would explain all the issues you just brought up regarding the combat kids not being killed.
Gotcha! Saving our heroes in the nick of time cliche.
This has happened so many times in this story, I'm surprised you're still sinning it. Then again, I've been sinning you for repetition, so it wouldn't be fair of me to sin you for sinning the game for repetition.
You stood together against formidable odds. Lesser warriors would not have fared so well.
Inspirational speech in the middle of a brawl.
Well, I mean, the Lin Kuei's got it under control, and he needs to give them the inspiration to lift their spirits for the battle ahead.
Gotcha!
Proceed to the Sky Temple. Earthrealm's fate lies with you.
Okay, Sub-Zero, let's take a look at this situation really quick, shall we? These four, whose asses you kicked at the beginning of this game, single-handedly, who would all be dead right now had you not interfered. And you're gonna leave the fate of Earthrealm to them. Hashtag Mortal Kombat logic.
Sub-Zero did beat them earlier in the story, when they were still inexperienced and cocky. Now they've learned to work as a team, and that makes them very powerful. Did you not just see them nearly take down Kotal Khan, Reptile Ermac, Eren Black Ferritor, and Kotal Khan's army all on their own?
Gotcha!
Has your mother ever told you what I did to her friends? Kill them all in the blink of an eye.
Hey, you heard it straight from the horse's mouth, people. And yet she ends up getting her ass kicked by Cassie Cage. What was that we said about power levels earlier?
That they don't mean anything and are as bullshit here as they are in Dragon Ball? You're the one who keeps bringing them up.
Gotcha!
Hey, Takeda, you know you have mechanical whips, right? Those mechanical whips can lift you up? Nope. Okay.
What would he attach them to? They're metal whips, not grappling hooks.
Gotcha!
Look, Takeda and Jackie are cool, but nobody can deny the absurdity of this scene. Liu Kang and Kung Lao are two of the most powerful combatants in Mortal Kombat history, and she's taking them on by herself, along with Smoke. Sindel wiped out half the cast of the last game, and she's barely able to hold her own against Takeda, along with Katana. And need I remind you, they both got injured. This is really reaching it. This is really reaching it.
Well, yeah, I can see why some would consider this ridiculous, but only if those people hold arbitrary power levels dear to their hearts. I'm going to say this one more time. Power levels mean nothing. I'm letting you know this because MK11's just around the corner, and I'm sure the power levels you've cooked up in your head will be challenged severely at some point during the game's story. Also, you mentioned the time Sindel wiped most of MK9's cast out, ignoring the fact they attacked her one at a time and didn't use any of their powers. Has she always been that powerful? She kind of seems stronger than Shao Kahn in that scene. I'd say this scene in MKX is more reasonable and believable than that MK9 scene was.
Gotcha!
Look, Cassie's cool and all, but just like Johnny Cage, the fact that this doesn't end in instant Shinnok victory is sinful as shit.
Of course, I never liked this ending where Shinnok is essentially defeated by the power of love. Sin away.
This is what awaits those who defy me. Excruciating, exquisite death.
Classic villain cliche number 1, torturing their enemies instead of outright killing them, thus giving the hero time to make a comeback and save the day.
It's almost as if some villains, especially ones obsessed with world domination and death, are egotistical and relish in making someone suffer rather than quickly ending it. It's almost as if some villains, especially ones obsessed with world domination and death, are egotistical and relish in making someone suffer rather than just quickly ending it. I'm not saying it's not a cliche, but I'm also not saying all cliches are bad.
Gotcha!
Well, we have to commend NetherRealm on this one. They managed to create a boss character that's cheaper than Shao Kahn. You want to know the worst thing? Corrupted Shinnok isn't even that hard to beat. His moves are just OP as fuck.
I've never really had any trouble beating him. I'd say he lies somewhere in between the absurdly easy MK1 Shang Tsung and the absurdly hard MK9 Shao Kahn. I mean, he's the boss. He's supposed to be OP. That's why you can't play as him.
Gotcha!
Well, we've reached an all-new low in Mortal Kombat history. Now, remember, people, the developers actually thought this was okay. Cassie Cage, daughter of Johnny Cage and Sonya Blade, is going to defeat the almighty powerful Elder God Shinnok at his maximum power. All because of that ha ha ha, Johnny Cage beat Shinnok at the beginning of the game, so it's only fitting that we end the game with Cassie Cage, his daughter, beating Shinnok as well. Ha ha ha! I have not seen a push this extreme since Roman Reigns headlined WrestleMania. And we all know how that turned out.
Someone had to defeat Shinnok, and seeing what you've sinned the game for so far, I reckon you'd sin it no matter who beat him.
Gotcha!
It'll kill you!
Must be cleansed. Hurry!
So, we're just gonna gloss over how easily they got Raiden out of Shinnok's skeletal hand? Okay.
Yeah, glossing over entirely irrelevant and unimportant details is just fine by me. Maybe the hand loosened up after Shinnok was defeated, but it's like a time release thing? Who knows? Who cares, really?
Gotcha!
I am not Takeda in this scene.
Sinning a game because you exist in reality.
Gotcha!
Is he alive?
Barely. I'll help him.
You're gonna help him? With what? Your staff bow powers?
I'm sure he knows some Shaolin healing trickery, or maybe he just means he'll make sure Raiden doesn't swallow his tongue. Hell, maybe he just means he'll offer emotional support. Get off the guy's dick.
Gotcha!
Well, of course the special forces would show up after everything has already been settled.
Well, yeah, it wouldn't be much of a final boss fight if halfway through it the special forces showed up and gunned Shinnok down.
Gotcha!
As the new rulers of the Netherrealm, heed me. No longer will I simply defend Earthrealm.
I will seek out and destroy all who threaten it.
See, I absolutely love this. Everything has come full circle. MK11, new guys are good guys are bad guys, and bad guys are worse guys. However, obvious setup for an obvious sequel is obvious.
There's nothing wrong with a setup for an obvious sequel if the sequel actually comes out and the setup builds hype. And personally, just knowing Kitana and Liu Kang are the new rulers of the Netherrealm is hype as shit. Not to mention how much more badass Had Enough Raiden is compared to regular Raiden.
Gotcha!
And now, onto some non-story mode sins. MK1 tactics.
What's going on here? Are you in training mode? Are you fighting a human opponent who's not fighting back? If you're fighting the computer and you're complaining that this is a viable tactic, you should probably up the difficulty a bit, mate. I've never had a fight on MKX that could be won by constantly sweeping.
Gotcha!
Some of the worst costumes are for the best variations, and some of the worst variations have the best costumes. For instance, why can't I wear Aaron Black's hat throughout all variations? Why the hell does Shinnok have his stupid bone hands in his necromancer variation?
He has his bony arms in that variation because that's the variation where he can summon giant bony arms. Seems pretty obvious to me.
Gotcha!
And speaking of variations, let's talk about special moves. How come certain characters who have iconic moves are only limited to one variation? For instance, how come Raiden only has his teleport in his displacer variation? What if I want to use it while I'm playing the Thunder of Storms variation? Garbage limitations are garbage.
You asked why certain moves are only available in certain variations. The answer is, because that's how variations work. You call them garbage limitations, I call it practically tripling the roster size. You can fight one variation of Raiden and have a completely different fight against a different variation. I like the variation system. It streamlines characters so they don't feel overburdened with 50,000 special moves.
Gotcha!
Liu Kang is still not yelling his signature when doing his bicycle kick.
That's because it was dumb and annoying. I'm glad they got rid of it.
Gotcha!
And speaking of Liu Kang, let's talk about him and Kung Lao's default costume. Liu Kang and Kung Lao are canonically dead, so why do they have old versions of themselves as if they never died? Just as a what-if scenario? Amusement? Either way, it's a sin.
More costumes is never a sin, mate, especially when they're free. Especially when they're free. How can you complain about that?
Gotcha!
Jump scares in the crypt. Because why?
Because some people are scared by them, I guess. Maybe they wanted to break up the sheer boredom the crypt contains with moments of not boredom. But they are kinda shitty, so I won't sin you.
Cassie Cage's Miley Cyrus haircut.
I agree, I think it looks awful.
23 years of Mortal Kombat, still no taunts.
I've been playing Mortal Kombat for around 26 years, and not once have I ever desired or heard anyone else desire taunts in the games until now.
Gotcha!
This is the closest thing to teabagging as you're gonna get in this game.
Sin 1. That is teabagging. How much closer do you want it to be? Do you want Mortal Kombat in VR and a dummy you can lie on the floor to dip your testicles into the mouth of?
Gotcha!
Sin 2. You like to teabag, which is nothing more than an outright display of disrespect to your opponent. And that's a sin, mate.
Gotcha!
The inputs of some of the brutalities. Some of them are pathetically easy, some of them are unjustifiably stupid.
I don't recall attending the meeting where it was decided that all brutalities should have the same level of difficulty in pulling them off.
Gotcha!
The following fatalities are lame.
Yeah, that's pretty lame. Not very gory. Disagree. This one's cool. Seeing the bubble fill up with blood is both creative, unique, and disturbing. Everything a fatality should be.
Gotcha! Aaron Black wins.
100% agree. Both of Aaron Black's fatalities are so shit, they're literally the reason I never picked him up to learn him. Again, I'll have to agree. I know it's dumb to nitpick MK fatalities, but why does the head just stay in the air instead of being pushed away by the bullets? And why does Sonya take a skinned skull as her trophy like some sort of caveman or savage or predator? Can't disagree with you here. One of the worst fatalities in the series. It's so boring and lame. Goddamn, when you're right, you're right. Reptile's fatalities are weak as fuck, just like Aaron's. I like this one, especially since we know how Shinnok ended up at the end of the story.
Gotcha!
I like this one too. It was the only one of hers that I used when I used to play as Jackie. Sure, her face is a little janky when she's winding up the punch, and she's not really looking at anything in particular, but just the part where she pulls her hand out of their face makes it awesome.
Gotcha!
Yep, dumb and lame.
Here's Johnny.
Johnny Cage wins.
It took 23 years for this fatality to come to fruition.
Yep, dumb and lame.
You want to know how to improve this fatality? As Black is walking towards his opponent, have him do some revolver ocelot trick shots. Kinda like this. Finish off the opponent as is, and then have him blow his opponent's brains out with the final shot.
That's actually a really cool idea. But to be fair, anything would make that fatality better. It's so bad.
And the worst sin of all? Some of the X-rays are better than the fatalities and brutalities combined.
Really? That's the worst sin out of all the sins you gave? That 1 or 2 X-rays are better than some fatalities and brutalities? I must have missed the meeting where it was decided that X-rays should be inferior to fatalities and brutalities. I probably shouldn't sin you because it's true that some X-rays look cooler than some fatalities, but I have to sin you for naming this as the worst sin the game commits. Even I'll admit the game's guilty of worse sins than this.
Gotcha!